Hello and welcome to my channel. I am back from being away from my garden for a week, and that's actually 2 weeks in a row I've been away from my garden, with the exception of a little bit of time on the weekends. And so I have work to do, and I'm bringing you with me. Some of that work includes cleaning up this space over here. You see all the weeds and the vines and everything growing up over here. I also have potato plants here blocking the sun to that bed behind it there. So there's a variety of things that we need to do in the garden today. And we're just going to get busy. We're going to get started. And with all of those weeds and vines and everything in my garden, I believe I'm providing the perfect habitat for a pesky rabbit that I've been dealing with this season. And on my last video, I was wrapping my video up, and that pesky rabbit wanted to do an encore presentation by showing up in the wrap up of my video. So we are done with this rabbit. I don't want to see the rabbit. My neighbor's cats have started hanging out in the garden and around the yard, which is a good thing because I think he's chasing that rabbit, or should I say those rabbits, because I did find the bunny nest, and I found bunnies, babies, I should say. I found babies in a nest over at the neighbor. So I believe that's why he's been hanging around, or she's been hanging around, the rabbit. So we're going to clean up the weeds in my garden. That's kind of a good habitat. Get that area cleaned up, clean up around the onions, among other things. So we're going to get started. I also have still just a few plants still in the little starter containers. Most of them are flowers, but there are a few vegetables I'm going to try to find homes for as well. In this GreenStalk right here, these were all my pansies, and they're looking good. Honestly, they're still looking very good. But I have some petunias that need a home. So I am going to start pulling some of these out, whichever ones look the worst. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't see any that look bad. But the plan was to pull out the ones that are not looking so great and start replacing them with the petunias. I don't see any real bad ones, y'all. So that means I'm going to have to pull out perfectly good plants to put the petunias in. And that's where I'm going to have a little bit of help. So my mother's going to come out here and help me with this today. So for those who don't know, my 74-year-old mother lives with me, and I call her more the flower lady, and I'm the vegetable lady of the house. She tends to all the flowers that we have just for the beauty of the flower. Now, I'll plant a flower, but I want my flowers to do work. I need them bringing in beneficial insects when I'm planting flowers, but she likes it for the beauty. And so she's going to come out and plant petunias for me today, but she needs a place to put them. So that's what I'm working on, are places for the petunias. And pansies are cool season crops, so they don't have much time left anyway, just to be perfectly honest with you. So pulling some of these out now, it's not really a bad idea. But my main goal today is to get rid of that habitat. I need that rabbit to go, y'all. And the rabbit's not even afraid of me anymore. He was like, "Are you finished working on my garden? Clean it up for me so I can come and have a meal." The one bed over at the neighbor's that the rabbit wasn't bothering was my metal raised bed that had beans in it. And hadn't touched those beans at all until a week ago. Y'all, here is a picture of that metal raised bed that had beans in it that hadn't been touched. Look at it now. look, it's been demolished. The green beans, or they were dragon tongue beans, they're gone. So apparently the appetite for this rabbit is just broccoli and green beans. That's it. That's it. They also wiped out this bed right here that you see in the picture. And this was a bed of southern peas or shelling peas. And this bed is completely gone. So I have a fresh bed that I can plant something else in, but I'm not planting anything in there until I know the rabbit's gone or I have a way to protect anything I plant in that bed. So for going back to the green beans though, I believe that that baby rabbit that was nesting right beside this bed finally got tall enough to eat those beans. And so I believe that was a diet of green beans for that baby. Now, I'm used to being at war with the squirrels, but not with rabbits. All right, I've emptied a few pockets. That's enough to get her started. If she needs more pockets, I'll come back and empty some more. I'm going to also work on this one just a little bit. So in this particular GreenStalk here, I have mostly strawberries and more pansies, but the strawberries are starting to put runners on, and my goal is to fill everywhere where I had a pansy. I'm going to now put one of those runners in, and that runner will actually be the pocket as the pansies are coming out. At least that's my plan. That's the goal. Let's see how we're going to do with it though. So let me go ahead and do some of those now while I can. The pansies were nice while they lasted, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the pansies at all. I probably had another month on the pansies, but I prefer strawberries over pansies any day, every day, all day. So pansies are out. Strawberry runner is in. All right. All of the pansies are now out, and this will be, once I remove a couple of onion, a third strawberry GreenStalk vertical planter. So it'll be a total of 42 pockets of nothing but strawberries. So that gives us 3 full towers of strawberries, minus a couple pockets. And then there's still a couple of pockets on here that I'm just waiting for a runner to reach over and grab in there, and we are good to go. That's 1 tower down. Now let's go work on these weeds. All right, in order to work on the weeds in this space here, I gotta make some room. And these potato plants are actually shading out the plants I'm trying to grow right here, because that evening sun comes from this way, and this is blocking this. And I have cucumbers and peppers and a few other things back here that's going to need that sun. So I am going to move these containers somewhere else so that we can improve the sun to this bed. And I think it's going to be over there. So let me do that first, and then I got room to get in here to do some weeding. This potato plant has flowered. And I mean, y'all, this potato plant is like ridiculously tall, and it's doing really, really well. But because it's so tall, that's why I'm having issues. So that's why we got to get them moved. Now, this trellis and everything in this bed has the sunlight it needs to grow properly. I have cucumbers over here. Let me show you. So those 3 bags were sitting here blocking these little bitty plants that were struggling to get sunlight. So there are cucumbers right there. There are cucumbers as well as peppers throughout here. And now I believe they'll be able to get the sun that they need. But let me show you one more thing. Y'all, look at my Korean radishes. Look how big that is. That's huge. So we are going to harvest some of those later on a separate video where I'll show everything that I harvest. But now we can get in here and do some weeding to this mess over here beside me. All right, the first area I'm going to start in is back here with whatever this vine is. It grows every year back here, and I fight it every year. I try to get rid of it every year, and it comes back every year. So we are going to start by making sure there's nothing back here that's going to bite me. That's the first thing. I don't want to get bitten or by anything, bugs, spiders, whatever, worms. Y'all know I don't like worms. And we're going to get these vines out. And these vines grow every year. I don't know, somebody might like them. I don't. I don't need anything competing with my vegetables. Okay. Whew, this looks so much better already. And now there's nowhere for that rabbit to hide. At least not back there anyway. Now I have all kinds of trellising systems back here that I don't need this year. Oh, my bed is falling completely apart. There's so much dirt back here, which is giving a nice source to grow all of these weeds that I don't want growing back here. And trees. I always have to stop and say and trees. And there is fabric paper back here, or fabric, what is it called? Weed fabric back here. But my bed has given away on the back side here, and there's so much soil on top of the weed fabric that it's perfect to grow all of these weeds. And so the weeds are growing, and I'm just going to have to keep pulling them throughout the year. All right, since I'm back here, let's go ahead and weed the back part of this bed here. And I have some kind of weed growing over here that I don't know what it is, but it has invaded two of my beds, completely invaded those beds to the point where I'm wondering if it's even a weed. I'm wondering, honestly, if these are tomatillos, because I had tomatillos growing in the bed right next to it last year. And I see tomatillos coming up, and these plants look just like those. So it's got to be tomatillos. So they volunteered way over here. Oh, and I'm not even growing tomatillos this year. Well, I wasn't going to, but I might have to let a couple of these grow anyway, since I have so many tomatillo plants. But on the back side here for this trellis, I am going to grow, or I'm going to try to grow, melons. So last year was the first year that I grew any type of melon and had success. So we had a ton of cantaloupes last year, and they did so well. I mean, I was so proud of myself, and they tasted delicious. And so we are going to try to do that again this year with the cantaloupes, and the goal is to grow them here. And yes, I grew the cantaloupes on a trellis. I did. I grew them on a trellis. I provided support when they got big, and they were absolutely delicious. And so I have cantaloupes already growing back here, they're just small and the weeds were competing with them. So by getting these weeds out, they should really take off here. All right, the backside I think is as good as it's going to get. I also have a volunteer tomato plant growing in here, and I don't know what this plant is, but I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to let it grow. I'll provide it a little support later on in the season, but we'll see what happens. Now let me get on the other side in that, in that marsh, in that the weeds, or whatever you call that when you find a field of nothing but weeds. That's where we're headed next, because I can't really reach anything else from this side. I mean, you can't see it right here, but y'all, I'm trying to grow carrots right here, but all you see are these weeds. This right here, this weed right here, it's got to go. I should have never let them get this big. All right, but you do what you got time to do. Well, I'm going to keep weeding this bed here, and I will bring you back when I get it all cleaned up, because believe it or not, there are onions growing over there that you can't even see. So I'm going to go work on this bed. I will bring you back so you can see the final product of this bed. All right, I have this bed and the one right next to it completely weeded. So let me share with you how it looks now that I got rid of all of those weeds. I also trimmed the top of my onions because they were just so long and leaning over. But look at that, y'all. Look how much better this bed looks. So now you can see the carrots growing in this space here. Hopefully in the next day or so, they'll start standing up now that they have room to breathe. And then over here, all of the onion, some of them are starting to size up from a bulb standpoint, but they're big, thick, and happy. And so there's no rain in sight. I cut the tops out, and those tops, I will dehydrate those tops, and I will make an onion powder out of them to use while I'm cooking. So most parts of all your plants has some type of use. So I try not to waste anything from the garden. So I'm going to jump over. I'm going to weed this bed here that has the corn in it and the one just behind it. And then we're going to move on to something else. Now that I'm done with weeding that whole back side of my garden, I'm going to move on to another project, and that is pruning my tomato plants. So all of these plants right here behind me, these are indeterminate tomato plants. Indeterminate means that they're going to grow and they're going to keep growing to an indeterminate height. So that just means they're going to keep growing until the weather or disease or something takes it out. So with that being said, they have a lot of what I call suckers or side shoots, and they get real bushy. And the more bushy your plant is, it interferes with airflow. And so I am going to clean up some of these leaves that are throughout here. I mean, like you can't even see blooms because there's just so many leaves in here. And these leaves really have no purpose, right? They have no purpose. It's not like blooms are coming on the leaves. And then I have suckers. Suckers are the leaves or the shoots that grow in the armpits. So this is an armpit right here, if you can even see it. And then it would shoot up right out of that armpit. Now that would be a sucker. And so I'm going to remove as many lower suckers as possible. I'm going to clean up the bottom 12 inches or so of this plant to help with overall airflow and to help with any type of splashback. Splashback is when it rains or you water and that water hits the ground and the dirt comes up and hits the leaves of the plant. Now there are all kinds of bacterias and disease and viruses and all kinds of stuff in the soil, and it's always going to be there. It's not like it's sterile in any way. It lives in the soil. That's what it does. But when it gets on the leaves of the plant, it can cause some premature damage and dieback and that kind of stuff. And then you'll say, well, Kim, it rains all the time. And when it rains, it's going to splash dirt back up on your plants. That's exactly true. So whether it's raining or whether it's water or I'm watering or whether I'm fertilizing, I just want to get those lower leaves off the plant so this plant can have the best chance at survival as possible and to live as long as possible as well. So that's what we're going to do next. Trim some of this back, and I need to get this trellised up a little better. Some of it's not even on the trellis, so I got a little bit of work to do to clean it up. And this is the first time this year that I'm cleaning this particular garden up. Y'all, I've been traveling. I ain't had time to do nothing. And see, I didn't even remember this, but I put onion in here because I had so many onion, and the onion has been completely shaded out by these plants. Now, here's an example of a leaf. So this leaf was touching the ground right here. This part right here was touching the ground. There are all kinds of spots and holes where bugs have gotten in it and just disease and all kinds of stuff. So when it touches the ground, it can cause damage to your plant. Boy, I was putting onion everywhere. Well, I'm going to keep working on this task. I will bring you back so you can see how I really clean this space up. And you'll see all of these leaves will be thinned out. We'll get good airflow. Airflow also helps with pollination. So your blooms right here, when the wind shakes that plant, they pollinate those blooms. And so sometimes I'll walk through the garden and I'll just give my tomato plants a little shake like that to help with pollination around the blooms. But if there's so many leaves on here, it can block that wind from giving it that nice little shake that you want. So we're going to get this cleaned up. I will bring you back and I will show you how it looks once it's clean. All right, I am finished pruning all of these tomatoes. I took all the leaves off, y'all. I took them all off. They were just so crowded in here. So I removed all the leaves. Now you can see all the blooms. There are tomatoes in here, which I couldn't even see before because there was just so many leaves. So all the leaves are out. There are so many blooms already in here. So the tomatoes are already forming. Now that I got all the bushiness out, it actually cleared up the back side. Let me show you. On the back side here, the leaves of those tomatoes were completely covering this back side of the bed and shading out peppers that I had back here. But now that the leaves are gone, I am going to add a few more peppers that I had left over. So these are my spicy peppers over here, and they've been almost completely shaded out by the tomatoes that were behind them with all of the leaves and stuff. So now that I got the leaves out, I found a few spots where the original pepper plants didn't take. So I transplanted them in and they died. So there was one here, it's gone. The ones in the front are gone or they never took. So we're going to add a few more. And I am going to be adding my Ancho 101s, which are 20+ year old seeds. So we'll be adding those. I have a few of those left. I also have some mulatto, what is it? Mulatto is lino? I don't know. They're poblanos. They're chocolate poblanos. I'll be adding those, and I think I got more poblanos over here. But we're going to add those in here, and we're going to just fill this bed up with peppers. I have a few flowers in the front here, but other than that, this is all peppers in this bed. So we'll add a few more, and this bed will be done for the day. So I'm on the back half of this bed, and I might as well share with you what's down here. So down here, I have some volunteer tomatoes coming in. I have some flowers, a few more peppers over here. I have collards just to the side of me. So anywhere where I have enough space, I'm going to fill it up with peppers. It doesn't matter if it's in order or not, and I'm really kind of OCD. I like everything to be very organized. But I think I want to fill this bed up with all kinds of peppers. At least that's one thing that the rabbit doesn't like. All right, let's get this in the ground. Now, one of the things that I'm not going to do is I'm not putting fertilizer or anything in here. I just did a liquid fertilizer in this whole bed this morning. Actually, I did a liquid fertilizer in both my raised beds and my GreenStalk vertical planters. So everything was fertilized this morning. The ground is super wet from where I fertilized. So I'm not going to add any granular fertilizer like I normally would do when I'm transplanting in, because at this point, y'all, I'm just trying to find a place to put them. And so I'm going to put them in by just digging this little hole with my hand, and we're going to find a home for these. Pepper plants can actually be planted pretty close together, and that's what we're going to do today. The bad thing is that I have a zinnia back here, and I know it's going to try to flop forward on these pepper plants. So I'm going to have to keep this one cut kind of low so it doesn't affect the pepper plants here. Same thing with this volunteer tomato plant. I'm going to have to make sure I'm angling it back to protect these pepper plants in the front. And if these pepper plants don't make it, no harm, no foul, no big deal. I already have probably 70 pepper plants throughout my garden, if not more. I really should count them because there's a lot. There's a lot of pepper plants between my garden and my neighbor's garden that I also plant. So I'm just trying to find a home so I can get all these transplants off of my patio. These are my collard greens. They're looking good. So I'm going to keep working on these peppers, and we'll probably end right here. We've done a lot of weeding, trying to remove all of those possible places for that pesky rabbit to nest and live in my garden. And we've weeded probably over half of the garden we've weeded today. So this is a good day, good day. And we're going to fill this bed up with peppers, and we're going to call it. So we'll end here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Come back and join me again at Kim's Kozy Corner. Bye.